Motorsports moment of the night. And dude, it has to be Jordon Smith's incredible win. First win for Triumph and as far as motocross bikes and a motocross racing team, Super SMX racing team. You could kind of see it building throughout this season. Well, that you knew, like, number one, Jordon is capable of winning, and the bike and the team program as well, knocking down 2 podiums. Should have had a podium last week at Anaheim too, but fell down going for position and ended up 4th. Man, this guy rode phenomenal all night long. And yeah, that's the United Motorsports moment of the night. And yeah, you could see it coming. I'm totally pumped for this race team. And I try not to be too biased on the broadcast, but I just think about the process, RV, and, you know, what that was like from we started talking about it. And then when we started testing parts and pieces way back in 2020, and the people that we put in place and the existing people that were already there, from engineers to design group, R&D group there at the headquarters in Hinckley, UK. And I think I just go back. It's to the view. It's to the goal. It's to the people behind the scenes, and the core group of people putting together and developing that motorcycle, and Triumph's sacrifice and motivation and commitment level to have a competitive bike in the marketplace. That, like, those were the things going through my head. And then, of course, some of the challenges that we've had in the last year and a half with the race team and getting it going, and what that looked like with parts and pieces and all that fun stuff. And to finally get to where we are now in a short amount of time against the incredible group of other race teams and manufacturers that we're competing against, it was, for me, that was a incredible moment in history.
Yeah, totally. They've 13th race, won on their 13th race. So that's really early. And, you know,
Supercross race, that is.
Yeah, Supercross. Yeah. And then we obviously had Coker on, basically team coordinator, team manager, kind of like the
GM.
Yeah,
general manager at Triumph Racing America.
Triumph Racing, yeah, and he had talked about obviously some of the challenges, and then obviously when he had stepped into that position, that GM position, like I think we were 20 days out-ish that we had Coker on the show, and it was a lot to bite off in those 20 days. So you know, it speaks massive on the side of, like you said, all the crew member, all the team, and everybody they put in position. And it's going to be really cool too. Like, I think that's a massive milestone to win this early as a race team and as a manufacturer. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ducati does. And why I reference these is 2 brand new motorcycle manufacturers coming to race Supercross and outdoors in the States. So you know, I think that's a pretty high bar set by Triumph. And now we're going to be able to see what a company like Ducati can do in their short time that they're trying to come up with a race bike and develop this motorcycle. That's my point is that's not an easy thing to do, what Triumph just did. And you know, getting their first win, and also just consistency. Like, I've watched the bike last year, watched the bike this year. Like, it's, yeah, sure, they had some growing pains, you know, things not going their way with the motorcycle or maybe with the riders, but they've worked through it so far, and on a very timely manner.
Yeah, it's it was great to be able to bring Coker on. He's been a huge help across the board. And again, the unsung heroes, the people who don't get mentioned within the organization of that race team here in the US, they do a great job in the MXGP team. I mean, you know those guys really, really well, RV. I mean, Vince, Thierry, I mean, those guys are committed. They're working hard on their side. They had a hell of a first season in MXGP, and I expect nothing less this season coming up from them. They obviously play through with some different rules, which make a huge difference in the development stages or the early stages, like where Triumph is at. They have a little more flexibility on what they can do compared to us. But yeah, I mean, for its 13th Supercross race to win again at the level and being able to compete with, you know, organizations like Star Yamaha, that I'm proud of that team and everyone at that race shop who has there's been some trying moments the last year and a half. So you got your glory, and I think there's going to be more of it. Cole Davies, dude, guy is again, like, if you don't like us talking about him on Title 24, you better get used to it, because I think we're gonna, right. I think we're gonna be talking about him, dude. I just didn't expect this from him, and I don't know that I even had a reason not to expect this from him, but he has just been super impressive, dude.
He totally has, and part of that's because no amateur career, like in the U.S. That is obviously
right.
Comes from New Zealand, and I think somebody that hasn't got a lot of I guess Ben Townley. Ben Townley is somebody that hasn't been mentioned a lot on this stage, and why I'm bringing Ben up is Cole would go and stay with Ben early 85s. 125s and big bike, and like I think there's 2 Supercross tracks in New Zealand, and they're both Ben's, right? So for him to come out and do what he has done in such a short time, I think he's been in the US for roughly, let's call it 2.5 years ish, to make the strides and the progress that he has made in such a short time. I think that shows, and you got to give Ben Townley a massive pat on the back for developing this kid early on, right? He put the
fundamentals,
the fundamentals in front of him and executed them early, and the technique wise early, and now it's really starting to show. So the crazy thing about, I'm going to throw Juju in this with Cole too, is neither of them, like I said, the amateur scene, they haven't been chasing this amateur scene for like all these other racers have, or kids today. So the ceiling to me for those guys it's I don't know where it sits. Why? Because it's they like I said, they haven't been at it for very long, from the standpoint they're not cooked, or they're not burnt out, like this is pretty new for them. So I think that both of them, the way they're riding, shows that the ceiling is very, very high, because they haven't been doing it for very long.
Looking back, I mean, the pressure was, I talked about it a little bit on the broadcast, and now I can expand a little bit more here on our pod, is like, I had a short amount of time to explain. It's like the pressure that he was probably feeling going into that last race, knowing like, all right, now I can't screw this up, right? Like I went 1-1. All I have to do is I think he could have gotten second or third at least, if either Jordan or Hayden had won. He could still, that was the buffer that he had. I'm like, but that's when it really sets in, like, okay, now I can't mess this up, right? I think it was more pressure. And then of course he didn't get a good start, and we have some, he got lucky. He went down in a really, really bad spot. So this is what we're watching right now for you guys who aren't watching only on audio. Gets a bad start. He's way back in the pack, and somebody hits a tough block on the triple and knocks the tough block right in front of him. I believe it's a dude on a Yamaha. Maybe it's, I don't know. Did you see that? Dude, look at that. So who hit it? It's hard to tell.
Right there, 134-ish, right in front, and then Cole's right behind him. Yeah, that's a tough situation. That's why we all talk about how important the starts are from a standpoint. If your competitors are up front, it's hard to chase them down. But then that's one of the main concerns right there is if you're in the back of the pack coming around the first couple turns, or the first couple laps for that matter, tough blocks, riders chopping you off. Not that they're doing it on purpose. It's just you're not accustomed to racing in the back of the pack. You're accustomed to racing in the front, and your focus is to try to get to the front, where actually your focus should be Brad West. It looked like it was 334 that grabbed a hold of that top block and flipped it in, that Cole landed on. But coming through the pack, where actually those first couple laps, you need to be focused on avoiding issues with either riders or tough blocks and things like that. So it's a tough spot to be in. Obviously, we're watching the replay again. For the ones that are watching it, Brad West lands right on the tough block, and then it just flips it out into the lane, and Cole lands on it when he goes to double. Just a bad scenario. To your point, Ricky, of going 1-1 in a Triple Crown, there's a whole lot of pressure going into that third moto, executing your start, putting yourself in a good position.
You're in a situation where you have to perform. Like,
yep.
Obviously you want to perform in race 1 and race 2, right? But there's not a position that you have to get. Now on the third race, dude, you have to get a good start because you have to at least get third. If those other two guys,
the pressure is a different type of pressure of now producing, for that overall, and it becomes a little bit more. And you see that his start wasn't on par like it was the first two. Was that a little bit of a pressure thing? Obviously, as racers, you're lined up down there. I can tell you that that's exactly what I would be worried about, or the pressure would be, okay, I need to execute one last time and get up front. And it adds more pressure to it. So it's just like the Monster Cup, 3 different gate drops. That's the only thing I can refer it to. Is I never raced Triple Crowns, but Monster Cup was a Triple Crown. First one, no problem, less stress, different stress, I should say. And then race 2, you're a little more stress of producing that again. And then race 3, when you're sitting there looking at the overall, it's 10 minutes away. That overall win is 10 minutes away. It's a lot more stress, a lot more to think about when you're on the line.
Yep. 100%. Hey, so that's some positive talk on the 250 review. Juju, I got after him a little bit on the broadcast, and I feel rightfully so. I can't wait to hear what you have to say, but basically 2 mistakes and just in a separate part of the track. And because Juju has been doing so well this year, and he's just like a different guy, and he looks rock solid, we're watching it. He lays it down in the first lap. Track hadn't taken a set yet, right? It wasn't worked in. The SMX track crew had just touched it up. So, right, it's probably a little bit marbly, a little bit slick. Traction wasn't there. And so he crashes. Like, all right, well, he recovers from it, comes back from a long ways away. Yeah, that was a good save by Cole Davies. Also, Cole Davies almost dropped it in the whoops that first lap. And long story short, he basically makes 2 mistakes, right? Same mistake the second race too, while leading. And I just feel as a rider of his caliber and how well he's doing, to make a similar mistake, 30, 40 minutes later, is just, you can't do that at this level, especially against the guys he's racing against. So I was surprised, dude. I was surprised.
Yeah, I surprised, yes. But also I think we have 2 different characters here. We have obviously Hayden as the outspoken character, and you have the Juju that kind of just rolls with the punches. He's got some good little comeback lines when he needs to have them. But yeah, part of me is he hasn't been in that situation either, of being a real title contender, running the red plate. That brings a little set of more weight to it when you're running that red plate. But to your point, definitely a little too aggressive on those lead laps. Like I talked opening part of this show, how Phoenix can bite you either in the rhythm sections or just like we watched twice for Juju in the turns. Nothing technical, just asking too much from the tires, asking too much on the first lap. So I think that if I had to guess, that probably won't happen again. Obviously you're supposed to learn from your mistakes, not do it again and do it over and over. But we saw it twice in 3 motos, mistakes. So he was able to recover, but yeah, I agree with you that mistakes can't happen in that position.
Yeah. So our producer, pretty good question. And I like role playing. I don't always like to role play and talk about hypotheticals. If he doesn't win the championship, do you think he looks back at this race?
For sure. I mean, look, he gave up a stack of points in each of those races, and he had a very good shot at winning the overall there at Glendale. He's been riding well. He's put himself in great positions. but just it snuck away. But yeah, if it comes down to a point situation in the end and it's within 5 points, and you can look back to big mistake by Juju there hitting the tough block, but saves it for the ones that are watching. But yeah, if you look back and it's a 5-point spread over the win, we have it slow mode right now with the ones that are going to watch on YouTube. Grabs a tough block right there, got two of them actually, got super lucky. I mean, we've talked about on the show those tough blocks. They're
like Velcro, dude.
Yeah, because they are foam, they are like Velcro. You can steal the cover off of the blocks too, and they get wrapped in the rear wheel like it almost did there. And you can see that tough block just shoot off the track. So yeah, they are like glue. But yeah, if it comes down to a 5-point spread, you'd have to look back. If this is his worst weekend, be like, damn, like if I wouldn't have made this mistake. So that we're looking right now, Juju Beaumer 87 points, Jordon Smith down 2, Hayden Deegan down 3, Cole Davies down 15, Joe Shimoda down 19. And you know, obviously got to bring up Hayden into this conversation too, because he was sitting about 10 or 12 points down after Anaheim won. Now we're only sitting 3 points down, and that point race is closing up.
And so I thought he rode well. You know, I think that a lot of dudes have picked up the pace for sure. I think they picked up the pace because they're going to have to if they wanted to compete and challenge Hayden.
Hi, folks. Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.